Light. It's all around us. Flip a switch, and there it is. But when I flip a switch, I get to produce this. My life is built of light and shadow. Compositions of color and texture where I can play on your emotions in the blink of an eye through time. In an instant, I can go from a warm summer day to a dark and mysterious night, all with just light. The theater has been a place for storytelling for hundreds of years. Lighting plays an integral role to that emotional journey. For example, if I was to light a scene from behind, it would give a sense of suspense or curiosity. If I was to light the surrounding scenery, it would provide information as to why, how, and when the story is being told. If I was to light a subject from above, it would give then a sense of tension, power, or isolation. And hopefully, when I start combining all those things together, it starts to create a well-lit scene. Now, it requires thought and consideration as to how and why a stage should be lit. We may ask, how many lights do I have, and what kind are they? What color should they all be? We may also ask, what are the skin tones? What do the costumes look like? What does the scenery look like? What color is it all going to be? And also, what does it sound like? And then more importantly, what role am I trying to do with light to help tell that story? Despite all of that, it may come down to as simple as just warm and cool. But then, what is warm and what is cool? Is it dark and saturate, or is it bright and crisp? Well, allow me to paint this picture for you. Shakespeare is credited with saying that his figures are encased in the stone, he has only to release them. The same is true for light. Picture, if you will, a dark room, but inside is a warm amber light cast upon a nice comfy recliner. Next to it is a window through which comes a crisp beam of white light. And in that light is a well-loved book yearning for another page to be turned. Sounds pretty nice, right? Well, now that light from above is going to be a sinister green. The light through the window becomes blood red. And the book, pretty cool, right? The only thing that changed was light. Choices were made that told a particular story. One was of comfort and relaxation. The other was inviting some creepy clown to come over. But more specifically, the only quality of lighting that changed was the color. By changing a different hue or color, the mood or function of the lighting shifted, thus changing the audience experience. Now, lighting is almost always taken for granted. It's there when you want it and not when you don't. It's about having choices. So a colleague shared to me once, because it came up as what would be too many choices or just simply not the right choice. So no matter how many lights you have or how large the budget might be, it all comes down to a well-placed light. All of my designs start with a singular, well-placed light. Your own homes, your own rooms, can and should begin with a well-placed light. Now, what kind of light is it? Now, we may all be aware that the incandescent light bulb has kind of seen its last day, and we now live in the long life and cost and energy-efficient world of the light-emitting diode, or LED for short. And of which of those, there are many, many flavors. And if you happen to see the packaging for any of those, you would notice that it looks a whole lot like your breakfast cereal. Well, we're going to talk about that right here today. So here are two basic principles of lighting. We're going to talk about perceived brightness versus lumens, and color versus color temperature. Now, a fairly common trait about light bulbs is how much wattage or how much power it consumes. So let's say you have a 60-watt light bulb, pre-LED, and with that in mind, you probably have a decent idea of what that looks like. Well, when you actually go to turn it on, that moment right there, the moment you turn on and experience the light around you, that is called perceived brightness. It is an experience that is only you and you alone. Others around you may have a similar experience, but ultimately it comes down to how you feel about the lighting around you. Now, if you look back on the packaging again, you'll notice that you might see something that looks like 700 to 800 lumens. That's cool. Lumens is the measured amount of light coming from the source. Okay? So that's important, and that matters to our perceived brightness. But ultimately, it's going to come down to how you feel about that light. That is what perceived brightness is, the eye of the beholder. Now let's talk about color. If I had to single out one reason why I became a theatrical lighting designer, it's because of how I can manipulate color. Now I encourage you to do something to see how cool this is. If you can, go find a bag of bright color candies. And if you're able to, one at a time, shine a red, a blue, and a green light on them. This is the basics of color theory. I further encourage you to do this with your kids or grandkids. They will love it, especially the part at the end when they can eat the experiment. My college students still enjoy that. Now, color temperature is a slightly reduced way of thinking about color. Here's a picture of a beautiful sunset in southern Missouri that I took with my family a few months ago. We can measure all this with something you may recall from your high school physics class called Kelvin. This is the same Kelvin for all of you scientists in the room who measure absolute zero. So when you look at the horizon, down at the bottom where it's nice and amber, think of a candle. That's going to be about 2,000 degrees Kelvin. Slightly above that, in the 3 to 5,000 degree range, that's going to be what we call neutral generic white light. And then up above that, as you get a little bit cooler and a little bit colder, that's going to be your 6 to 10,000 degree range. This right here is the backbone of all of my design work. Based on the overall mood of the story, my lighting will be either a base warm or a base cool, depending on how it goes. And on top of which, I'll add all of my color choices. So I encourage you to think about that for a second and think about your life. Do you live in a base warm or a base cool? Once again, here's that packaging on that light bulb, but this is the color temperature values. Now you know what that is. And if you experiment with adjusting this slightly, I promise you it will have illuminating results. I promise you that even if you adjust the color temperature slightly, it will have a profound impact on your well-being. For example, if you wish to have your, let's say your office or your kitchen in a cooler, notice did not say brighter, that's lumens, color temperature, that might be more efficient. But you might find yourself more cozy in your living room or bedroom in a warmer light. If you design your rooms with the lighting appropriate to that intended purpose or mood, your mind will follow. So if you were going to go to the store and you wanted to test your wall colors, you'd probably grab a couple of swatches of paint to see what it looks like. Well, I encourage you to do the same thing with light. Grab a couple color temperatures and see what works best for you. It took me 3 times to try and find the right color for our kids' playroom downstairs. But once we did find the right quality of light, not only did it just feel right, but it also made our wall colors come alive as well. Be a lighting designer for your own life. Go ahead and change the light bulbs. That little switch on the wall, replace that, by a licensed electrician, with a dimmer and see a whole new world of perceived brightness. And if you really want to live on the wild side, experiment with color. There's plenty of ways to do that with and without apps on your phone. And even if you don't like it, you can always find a nice warm or cool that suits your mood. That is design. It's up to you.